Now I'd like to bring in host of the Rubin Report, Dave Rubin. Dave, thank you for being here, boy. I just delivered that monologue on what do we have in store for the next 2, 4, who knows how many years. Is socialism creeping into America?
Yeah, well, I certainly wish we weren't at this point, but when I tell people I told you so, yeah, I told you so. I was sort of put on the map as the why I left the left guy because I was a progressive, I was a Bernie supporter, and a lot of people know about my evolution and my political awakening. But what I was warning about, 5, 6 years ago, about how every single political and cultural norm was going to be put on the chopping block by these new progressives and the Marxists and these big government Democrats. Well, it's all sort of come here. And I don't think that there's going to be much to stop them at this point. And I think a lot of people, I really sense this from, say, the last few remaining good liberals. And by good liberal, I mean sort of the blue dog Democrats that used to exist, the moderate Democrat, the JFK liberal that used to exist. I think a lot of them are really regretting things right now because, they really didn't want to support Trump because Orange Man bad, but he was keeping the wheels on the American system. And I think what we have in store now is going to be some massive government stuff that everything, as I said, every norm from a men to a woman to gendered language at school to Black Lives Matter being taught in grade school and everything else, everything is going to be on the table. And I fear that in 2 years we're going to be worried about where were we 2 years ago.
And Dave, I agree with you. And in fact, I just talked about that. Where I feel that I agree. Elections have consequences. They won, and they get to move that pendulum with all those things that you just talked about. And as a conservative, I hate it. I can't stand it. But look, I get it. We lost. They won. They get to do that. What scares me, though, when I hear things like universal basic income, when I hear, Joe Biden talking about continually putting more money into people's pockets and PPP and all these different social programs, and the only way they're going to be able to do that is to tax us more and put more regulation on us. It literally is this. It is a creep of socialism. I get the culture part of it, and I hate it, but the part that really scares me is the economic part of it.
Yeah, all right, so let's put the cultural stuff aside. The economic part of it is truly scary because you're right. They don't believe in basic economics 101. Certain people produce things, and if you just take from those people to create programs to do whatever it is you want, well, then either you keep people dependent on the system or the people who create just sort of self-select out. And by the way, I live here in Los Angeles in California, at least for now. I'm not exactly sure why I'm here anymore. And we know that a ton of people are now leaving California to go to red states where they're taxed less, like Texas and Tennessee and Florida. So I'm deeply worried about that because these big programs that you're talking about, whatever they might be, and they're all coming, whether it's universal basic income or free college or whatever it is, it has nothing to do with how the government is supposed to operate. I mean, look at the founding documents. Where in the Constitution does it say that the government is supposed to be redistributing wealth? It doesn't say it, and yet somehow everyone thinks, oh, that's what the government is supposed to do.
It doesn't say it there, but it also isn't what we built this country on. We built the country on free market capitalism.
Right.
Show me one example, and in the left, all they want to do is they want to pay for it by taxing you, but they want to give away stuff. I mean, I will go out on a limb and say the reason why Trump isn't president going forward, and the reason why it's not a Republican Senate majority, is because of a $2,000 check that the left promised voters that the right couldn't come up with. Have we come to a place in America where it's all about who can offer more things to people to get their vote? We're just buying votes. It's okay if the system never crumbles, and it hasn't crumbled, but if it does crumble, it's going to fall hard.
Yeah, that's a great question because it talks about the sort of philosophic nature of what's going on here. So we say to people, okay, you can have 600, then the quote unquote better people say you can have 2,000. Now, I would have preferred we just cut taxes for everybody and let's not give the government the money in the first place. But if you don't let people work, you don't let them put bread on the table, well, then whether you're giving them 600 or 2,000 is sort of irrelevant. But your broader point is, are we now in a situation where both sides, Republicans and Democrats, are just going to be out racing each other to say, oh, no, I can just give you more? And unfortunately, I think because our education system is so bad, and as I said earlier, people don't even understand what's in the Constitution. I think we may end up in a situation like that where both parties will be like, "Oh, I'll give you 1,000. No, I'll give you 1,500. No, I'll give you 2,000. I'll give you 3,000." And that has nothing to do with capitalism or the things that made this country great.
Meanwhile, Dave, I got to leave it there. But meanwhile, everyone's whistling past the graveyard. I've been around a long time. I've seen markets crash. We make a new high in the stock market this week. Dave Rubin, always good to have you. Again, the Rubin Report on podcast, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Thanks, Eric.